In America's politics right now, it feels like the latency between an event and the politicizing has been shortened. And I mean in terms of people fighting each other over the event. Russia has latched onto this.
Yes, they have.
They've found that this is one of America's biggest weaknesses. We've seen in Congress people testifying about how effectively Russia used social media. How do you think the American government and Congress in particular should be reacting to the threat from foreign nations?
Well, that's why, I wrote a chapter about Russia in the book, because I think it's one of the most serious threats we face. I think it's an ongoing threat. It didn't start and stop in 2016.
Right.
In fact, we know it's continuing. We've seen evidence that Russian trolls and bots and agents are still fomenting discord and conflict within our country. That is classic propaganda, and the Russians are really good at it. You can ask the Europeans, they've been subjected to it for a lot longer than we have. And what I wished, and if I had been fortunate enough to be president, I would have said, look, we need an independent commission that gets to the bottom of what happened. I don't care who's involved. I don't care where it leads. We need to figure this out. We need to take steps to protect our country.
Right.
This is cyber warfare. It's not tanks and planes and ships, but it is a form of war. And we've never had an adversary who attacked us with so few consequences. And I think that's in large measure because the president is so ambivalent. I mean, he has to know. We'll find out what he knew and how involved he was, but he had to know that people were making outreach to Russians, to the highest levels of the Kremlin, in order to help him, to hurt me, but more importantly, to sow this divisiveness.
Right.
And the ads that the Congress is now releasing are very well done.
Right.
And when people say, well, we can't prove it affected anything, why would anybody spend money on advertising if you don't think it affects something? So companies spend money on advertising, political candidates do, and now we know the Russians did. So if we don't get to the bottom of it, we're not going to know what to believe, and that plays right into the hands of authoritarians, because a democracy depends upon having some common factual basis on which to make decisions. And in the absence of that, then people will tear each other apart, because they will be living in echo chambers where what they hear is what they think is the truth, and somebody else over here has their own echo chamber. It will be even more difficult to bring our country together in that kind of circumstance.
When you look at the conversations in the echo chambers, one popular narrative that has emerged in and around Russia has been the Clinton dossier, the document involving Donald Trump and P, which has now come out as a document that the DNC and your campaign worked to pay for. Now, people say, Hillary, is there a difference between your team paying for this opposition research and Donald Trump's people working with the Russians to influence the election? Is there a difference?
Of course there is. And, I think most serious people understand that. This was research started by a Republican donor during the Republican primary. And then when Trump got the nomination for the Republican Party, the people doing it came to my campaign lawyer and said, would you like us to continue it?
Right.
And he said yes. He's an experienced lawyer. He knows what the law is. He knows what opposition research is. And, from my perspective, it didn't come out before the election, as we all know. And what also didn't come out, which I think is an even bigger problem, as I write in the book, is that the American people didn't even know that the FBI was investigating the Trump campaign because of connections with Russia, starting in the summer of 2016.
Right.
So I know that voters should have had that information. That's something that may have influenced some people. And it's part of what happens in a campaign, where you get information that may or may not be useful, and you try to make sure anything you put out into the public arena is accurate. And so this thing didn't come out until after the election, and it's still being evaluated. But the fact of the FBI investigation into the Trump campaign and Russia should have come out.
Looking at the Democratic Party now, looking at Hillary Clinton, one thing far too many people say, and I have my own opinions on this, is why won't you just go away? Right? This is, I don't know. this is what people say. I
Right.
honestly have my own views, and you know, I relate it to my mom and things people have said to her. But when you hear that, and like I say, I have my idea on where it comes from. How do you feel, and what does it make you want to do?
Write a book explaining what happened and come on your show and other places. You know, some of it is just rank sexism. Let's just be honest about it. I never heard anybody say that to Al Gore or John Kerry or John McCain or Mitt Romney, all the men who lost elections in the last 17, 18 years. So some of it is just that. Some of it, I will say, is media guilt. You know, when they now have to face the way they covered this campaign and the fact that they didn't pay any attention to policies, which, you know, I thought would be important, and spent a lot of time saying, okay, here's what we're going to do on an infrastructure plan, here's what we're going to do to improve the Affordable Care Act and everything I worked on. They were so totally entranced by the reality TV element of it and the entertainment value of it that I'm told, and some members of the press have privately said to me, look, they missed it. They missed it. They thought I was going to win, so they could beat up on me without consequence. And they didn't really stand up against a lot of the ridiculous lies and accusations against me. So I think there's that. And then thirdly, I think there are people who are genuinely worried that, you know, we've got to make room for new voices. That's why I'm supporting candidates and causes I believe in. And yet a lot of these people who are primarily young people just getting started, they've got tremendous energy, they're not going to get on your show. I am. And so I'm going to say we need to stand up for our fundamental values. We need to be promoting and electing people who care about the American public, who are not in it for self-enrichment, who are not in it to have a spite match with former President Obama, who did a great job and is now being, you know, mistreated by his successor. So, okay, I can get that voice out there, and I'm going to keep talking. I'm not going anywhere. I walked in the woods. That was enough. I'm done with that.